Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about the unemployment money and all this other benefits and all this. Basically, I want to talk about all the stimulus money being given out recently. And as an essential employee, I have received no stimulus checks. I have not received $1,200 stimulus check. I have not received any hazard pay. I have not received any CARES Act money, any unemployment bonuses. I haven't received anything at all, actually. So, with that being said, am I doing okay? Um, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm providing. I have two adults at home, and one kind of survive. One kind of puts their own weight in, but the other one does not. And so I'm kind of forced to provide for another person. And I don't. I live in one of the most expensive states in America. I believe this is top four states, one of the top four, and I don't really make that much. I only make 17.66 an hour, and that might be a lot for some people, but if you were to equate my wages in a different state, again, I live in one of the most expensive areas, and the cost of living here is extremely high. A gallon of milk here costs $67, so that's to give you an idea of how expensive it really is here. And with that being said, I have a you know, I've talked to a lot of essential employees, and one of the biggest things I have in mind is, if we keep giving people money, okay, the first thing that we need to understand is that the government doesn't bring more value to the dollar. What the government does is that they print more money. But just because you print more money doesn't necessarily mean that the money is actually going up in value. I believe that the time frame where prices of goods, services, food, gas, these things all went up really slowly. Well, they went up relatively fast to the amount of years, but it wasn't going up as fast as it could have been going up because we had ample amount of oil and gas because no one was driving. So that allows for things like goods and services to drop down in prices. But with that being said, we're going to notice that because there's more people on the road, more people are starting to use gas again and oil. Because the oil and gases were so cheap, a lot of the goods and services that we have were relatively low than what it should have been. But as these things rise in price, as oil rises in price, everything else is going to become more expensive. Not only that, but because the value of the dollar is going down, because basically what the government does is redistribute wealth, and just by printing more money, we're going to notice that things around us just are going to skyrocket tremendously. We're going to have tons of inflation, and so prices are going to rise because of that, and then the cost of goods and services is going to rise because America is producing not enough to equate the amount that we consume, which is why we need people to go back to work. And my biggest thought about this whole thing is that we found out what jobs are truly essential and what jobs truly maybe weren't that essential to begin with. They're more of a luxury. And Americans in general have been living paycheck to paycheck, on debt and on borrowed money. So that being said, it made me really wonder, why were we giving 156% more to those on unemployment benefits than those who are actually working? I believe that with the way that America and the government has handled its finances, not only through this whole pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, has only allowed for people to be even more financially irresponsible. And now they're in for a rude awakening, perhaps, unless we end up stimulating the people more and giving them more money. And there's an argument to be made that we shouldn't be giving all this money to people. We gave all this money to failing corporations and businesses, but why can't we bail out the people? Well, we should. We shouldn't be doing any of those things. We should let businesses that were deemed to fail, that have been more of a burden on the economy, to fail. But we shouldn't be giving people debt to be financial. We shouldn't be giving people more money just to be financially irresponsible. So sales of things like Amazon and Walmart have gone extremely up. A lot of your stores, retail, and all like your gaming communities, video game transactions have all gone up. Why? Because people have more money than ever to spend. And so when that happens, you're going to have people spending more money, right? Because while there are some people who are financially responsible, there's a lot of people who are financially irresponsible. For example, I have a lot of friends, and out of the group of 12, 15 people that I hang out with or talk to, associate with, only three of them have really been financially responsible. Like, they've been saving, budgeting, buying things like gold and silver, investing in the stock market to try an attempt to beat the inflation, things like that. But all the rest have been spending their money on things like cars that they can't really afford, or a lot of video game online transactions, buying things off Amazon, and all these other subscriptions that they weren't able to afford before, but now they can with all the stimulus money. And if only 3 out of the 15 people are actually being responsible with their money, well, it makes you wonder what is everybody else doing with their money. So actually, it showed that statistics says that people on unemployment have been spending more money than those who are working, which makes sense because now that they have more money than ever, why not? So when we keep stimulating the economy by giving people these stimulus checks, it's shown that people aren't saving it up. People aren't spending it wisely. People aren't buying just their necessities. They have been increasing the amount of money that they spend on things that they don't really need to begin with. So it makes me wonder, shouldn't we be concerned about the essential employee? Essential employees, if essential employees and their counterpart, those on unemployment, are making more money, well, if goods and services and cost of living is rising and essential employees' wages have only decreased or stayed the same, well, doesn't that mean that essential employees are the ones that you should really be financially concerned about? Because if they're only making $400 a week as a grocery clerk, for example, and then one retail worker who is making $400 a week is now on unemployment making $800 plus a week, well, if the cost of goods, foods, and services are going up in prices, and they're going to go extremely up really, really soon, well, doesn't that mean the essential employee is the one who's screwed over the most? Because, is his wages going to be able to make up, is the wages he's making, the $400, going to be able to pay for the cost of living? I mean, the person on unemployment benefits can now go find a job if he wanted to. I mean, there's tons of jobs everywhere. It's just that people don't really want to do these jobs, but there's jobs. And, this person who has been on unemployment has made double the income in 4 months than the person working. So that means that person should have savings if he was financially responsible. So, doesn't that kind of suck for the essential employee? He's been screwed on every aspect, from his time, his money, and his health. And now he doesn't even have money possibly to battle the inflation that's about to happen. And so I worry. Also, what people don't really understand during this time of a global pandemic, a recession, while this isn't their fault in particular, when these kind of things happen and you're not able to weather out a storm, it makes you have to wonder, like, hey, maybe you can't use all the supplemental money to prop up your exuberant lifestyle. Maybe you have to cut down on some of your luxuries. Like, maybe you can't buy tons of these video games or things from Amazon. Maybe you can't be buying cars that you couldn't afford. A lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck and they can't sustain a living. Over what did Andrew Yang say? Over 50, 60, 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Well, if that's the case, then why do they have all these nice cars? Why do they have all these nice houses? Why do they have all these nice new clothes? It makes me wonder that maybe these people are just very financially irresponsible. And if we keep bailing these people out, well, how's that fair for the people who are financially responsible, the people who've made sacrifices? Like, here's another argument, okay? And you could use this as an example. My sister, for example, has her master's degree. And we come from a very, very poor family. Our father wasn't around. He was on drugs. My mother had to work 2 to 3 jobs while providing for 3 kids. And if she had our father around, if she had the resources, my mother is a very strong woman. She would have done a really good job at raising the 3 kids. And, with that being said, she had to be a super mom. She had to work harder than ever. And then she had to pretty much pull the weight of 2 adults. And she successfully raised her kids the best way she could. One of her daughters got a master's degree. One of her sons are in the Navy. And, the other one's just trying to figure out things and best gauge how to move forward in the society. But, my sister, for example, while she did come from a very unfortunate background, she didn't let that stop her from doing what she had to do. So while she did get her master's degree, she sacrificed a tremendous amount for that master's degree. And she ended up paying her college debt in less than 1 year. Why? Because she worked hard, she saved, she wasn't irresponsible financially. She understood the financial choices she was making, and she lived her life accordingly. And, with that, because of her financial responsibility, because of the sacrifices she made, she doesn't have a tremendous amount of debt. She was able to ride out the storm. She was able to be financially okay during a time of a global pandemic. But what about the people who have gone to college, got the education, reaped the benefits of the education, and they are financially irresponsible to pay off their debt because they wanted a new car, they want a new house, they wanted new clothes every day, they wanted all this food, they want to buy all this stuff. And now, even though they owe money to institutions and to the bank, not the banks, but to the government because of the loans, they're unable to pay for all their debt. Now you could argue like, hey, that's not their fault, but you know what? If you're going to college, and assuming that you're smart enough to make it to college and you're qualified, well, then you should have known better that, hey, you know what? Maybe if I take out this amount of loan, that I have to be aware that I'm gonna have to pay this off. Look, I don't have a degree. I'm not smart, but hey, I figured that out before even considering college. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be in this amount of debt. I did the research. It accumulates. You know what? I'm 25, but I don't have the luxury to take out a loan. And so I pay for my college. Yep, I haven't graduated yet, but you know what? I work really hard. So why should we bail out all these people who have college debt? Because if you do that, they're just going to be more financially irresponsible. And then who pays for that debt? Someone has to pay for that debt. Nothing in life is free. So who's going to pay for it? If the government plans to pay for it, which is not really the government because they don't produce any value, it's coming out of someone else's money. It's coming out of someone else's savings, their pocket. So, people are like, oh yes, college debt forgiveness. But you know what? That's not fair for the person who's lived diligently. That's not fair for the person who made the sacrifice. That's not fair for the person who's lived financially responsible. So, I have to question, yes, we should be helping people in a time of need, but we're not really helping the right people. And even if we are helping some people, a lot of people have to suffer because of this. So what about the essential employees? We're all getting screwed over. And you know what? You're just teaching people how to be financially responsible, and this is going to be the downfall of America. Trust me. Look, we're shifting more towards socialism, while someone like China, for example, switches more towards democracy, capitalism, and into technocracy, whatever. So basically, we see the rise of China and the downfall of America. Well, it's only because the economics say we have to. So, with that being said, I have a lot of disagreements with what's going on, but, keep bailing out all these people, keep bailing out the financially irresponsible businesses and people, and see how far that's going to get America, while everyone else is responsible has to suffer.